What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time I put a brand new video. Now, in this video today, I'm looking at the Baltimore Ravens in the last couple of seasons. I'm looking into the next couple of seasons, particularly with this being the AFC Championship and incoming the Super Bowl weekend in 2 weeks. Because I see it a lot, right? We see it every year, the NFL, because I think there's a dynasty right now in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They have the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't even think it's close with number one and number two. But every year it's, who's the Mahomes rivalry? Because everyone wants to look back at all those great rivalries that the history of the NFL has had, right? You know, most recently it was Brady Manning. That's what it was. We want to see Brady and Manning going at it every year. Those two were dynasties, right? Mahomes and the Chiefs, I think they do have a dynasty. They've gone to 5 straight conference championship games. They've gone to 2 Super Bowls. They've won a Super Bowl. They're in another conference championship game. Mahomes has never played a road playoff game, which, first of all, is unbelievable. But that's a dynasty, all right? Now, it's not a dynasty in terms of winning championship, because I think Tom Brady put Tom Brady's the exception, right? Expecting quarterbacks to win 3 Super Bowls in a dynasty is unreasonable. 3 Super Bowls has only been accomplished a very, very few amount of times. Like 3, I want to say. Or maybe it's like 5. I'm sorry if I got that number wrong. It's just off the top of my head. I know it's 3 quarterbacks have 4. Brady, Montana, and Bradshaw. Like, winning that many Super Bowls, no matter how great you are, is almost impossible. Most of the greats have won. Maybe they have 2, but they were part of dynasties because they constantly won. The Chiefs are a dynasty. I'm going to say this right now off the bat. I don't think the Baltimore Ravens are even close to becoming a dynasty or being recognized as a dynasty, even though they've been extremely good. But, getting back to it's kind of like this episode's kind of different. I feel like it's kind of like me just like talking along a story rather than me like just constantly analyzing things. So bear with me. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, let me know in the comment section down below, because there's not a lot of Ravens news today. But I figured this is still something that I do want to talk about. You look at Mahomes and you look at the Chiefs, and everyone's trying to figure out who is it that they're going to be going up against. And right now, at the beginning of the year, it was the Bills, was the thought. Oh, man, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes played the best playoff game of all time last season. They're going to keep it going. The Bills started off really hot, and it was like, man, the Bills are going to go crazy. Josh Allen may be better than Patrick Mahomes. Bills lose to the Bengals in the playoffs, and now it's like, oh, wow, the Bengals and the Chiefs have matched up 2 times in back-to-back AFC Championship games. Burrow is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes, and there's the Bengals. First of all, Bengals are clowns. Like, whether or not they win the Super Bowl, I don't really care. Like, I would prefer not, but it's just kind of annoying when you're like, the mayor is going out and saying like, oh, Joe Burrow requested a paternity test for Patrick Mahomes to see if he's really the father. Like, really, really cringy stuff with the Bengals. But it's like, okay, you know what? Like, they're clearly going up against each other. And that is at a level that the Ravens are not close to. While the Ravens under Lamar Jackson have had drastic success and dominating performances and dominating seasons, dynasties and legends are not created in the regular season and regular season matchups. They're created in postseason matchups. You look at Brady and you look at Manning and you're like, why is Manning a great? It's not because of his regular season numbers, okay? Even though maybe he's the best regular season quarterback of all time, there's a couple of guys you could argue with there. Manning still always, was playing in the playoffs, and typically when he lost, it was to Brady, which is a reasonable loss, right? If you lose to the other great quarterback from your era, that's not a major issue. It's when you're losing to teams and dynasty or not dynasties, teams and quarterbacks that aren't that good. When you're like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like, you're not that close because Josh Allen, I feel like, is in the Buffalo Bills are much closer than the Ravens, even though I think the Ravens are better than the Bills. They're closer because it's like you look at who they've been knocked out by, and it's the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, and it's the Bengals with Joe Burrow. Two of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL, best young teams, two of the best teams in the NFL. And you're like, okay, you know what? That's respectable. The Ravens, when they have lost in the playoffs, have not lost to good teams. That is the issue that they are having. That is why I don't consider that, because I think a lot of Ravens fans get kind of upset, including myself. I get kind of frustrated when they're like, man, Mahomes versus Burrow, Mahomes versus Josh Allen, Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Burrow. These three quarterbacks are going to be leading the AFC for so long. And we hear that, and we're like, what do you like? Lamar's here. Why aren't you talking about Lamar? The reason they're not talking about Lamar is because he doesn't even get to play those guys in the playoffs. He doesn't. His playoff games are against old man Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers. I believe they're in San Diego when they played against them. They lost. Then they went up against Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans in the second round of the playoffs as a heavy favorite and lost. Then they played against the Buffalo Bills, but Lamar Jackson missed half the game. And so, you look back at that and you're like, okay, yes, he lost to I know I said like he hasn't lost to Josh Allen. He hasn't lost to Josh Allen in a way of like, oh wow, that was a great game. It was a major disappointment, that Buffalo versus Baltimore game in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson, first of all, got concussed, so we didn't even play a full game. Second of all, he was not good in that game. He wasn't horrendous or anything like that. I'm not trying to go out there and be like, Lamar's a bad playoff performer. That's not the point of this. But it was a game where it was like, oh, it was disappointing. It wasn't like a great matchup. It wasn't a great duel. It was like, oh, wow, the Ravens kind of really disappointed again. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, and I'm not trying to blame Lamar. I'm not trying to blame any individual, but this team is falling short because the teams that they are losing to are not at the caliber of the teams that they should lose to if they don't end up winning it all. And you can look at it this year and be like, oh, well, they lost to the Bengals this year. Yeah, but it was without Lamar. If they had Lamar, could they have won? Yes. Do I think that the Ravens were maybe the best team in the NFL this year? Like if they had Lamar Jackson, potentially. Like legitimately, the Ravens could be the best team in the NFL this year. If they had Lamar Jackson healthy the entire season, they could be in the Super Bowl. And I'm not trying to, make excuses like, oh, if we had Lamar. I'm not trying to say that. But I'm just trying to say, like, they consistently have been disappointing. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They make the playoffs this year, but they were just on a losing streak because they didn't have their quarterback. And we're going into now paying our quarterback drastic amounts of money. And it's like, hey, are the Ravens going to be a dynasty, or are they going to be the Dallas Cowboys of the 21st century? Oh, pretty decent regular season. Maybe they win their division. Maybe they sneak in as a wild card team. Maybe they win a game and then they just completely disappoint in the next round or the first round, because there are a lot of teams like that. The Tennessee Titans are like that. I'm not trying to throw shade at the Titans, but they're a team where it's like, yeah, they make the playoffs a lot, but then they get knocked out because they're not like real contenders. At least the Titans have had like quality playoff wins. And they've like gone the distance and played really good games against, these high-end teams. The Baltimore Ravens have disappointed in every playoff loss underneath Lamar Jackson. Every single one of them. There has not been a game where you come out of those. And it's not just Lamar. I'm like, the whole team has disappointed in every single one of those games. You can't look at this team as being close, because I think the reason why I'm making this video is because after the AFC Championship game, people are going to talk about whatever team wins, whether it's the Bengals, whether it's the Chiefs. This is the next dynasty. No matter what happens in the Super Bowl, it's going to be like, wow, the Bengals have made it to back-to-back Super Bowls and taken down Mahomes in back-to-back years. This Mahomes Burrow is the best this is the Brady Manning. If Mahomes wins, it's like, wow, Patrick Mahomes goes to his third Super Bowl. He takes down the Cincinnati Bengals, who just went to the Super Bowl. They've alternated Super Bowls. Those two teams have been to the last 4 Super Bowls. This is unbelievable. These two are going to be going at it for a long time. And then they may mention there's been some other young quarterbacks, but they're going to have to get through these teams. Again, I don't think the Ravens are that close to it because they haven't done it. And they haven't, even if they made it to one Super Bowl or made it to one conference championship game, maybe they beat Mahomes next year in the playoffs, maybe they beat Burrow next year in the playoffs, whatever it is. It still won't be seen. It's like, okay, they finally did it once. Because the Chiefs and the Bengals have now done it. Bengals have done it twice in a row. The Chiefs have been doing it for like 4 years in a row with Mahomes. It's a different level of, hey, you can make one run, and hey, you are consistently feared in your, conference in the playoffs. I don't think teams fear the Ravens in the playoffs. When you look at it at the beginning of every year, they look at the teams and they go, hey, I don't want to play Mahomes in the playoffs. I don't want to play Burrow, and I don't want to play Allen. I don't think teams are worried about Lamar. Should they be? Yeah, probably. But I'm going off purely perception because I'm talking about dynasties. Dynasties are not honestly factual. It's purely public image. It's purely perception and how people look at it. Because if you're not claimed as a dynasty, then you aren't one. No matter how well you perform, right? And those performances come purely in the playoffs, not the regular season. People don't look back and look at the Miami Dolphins under Dan Marino as a dynasty. Even though they were Dan Marino is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He's not a dynasty. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, not a dynasty. They've been really good for a pretty long time, but they consistently don't show up in the playoffs. Thus, they're not seen as a dynasty. You can look at a lot of these. Again, the Cowboys. You watch them every year, and it's like, wow, 12, 13 wins or 11 wins, make it to the playoffs, and then they fall apart. I would say the Seahawks in the last 6 years since the Legion of Boom, the Legion of Boom was it was maybe we're getting a dynasty. And then it just became, okay, never mind. The Seahawks are just going to make the playoffs, maybe win a game, and then disappoint. The Legion of Boom wasn't that was an era, but it wasn't a dynasty. Lamar Jackson and Ravens fans are looking for a dynasty. That's what we want. And again, dynasty doesn't mean 3-4 rings. It means consistent appearances in big games and consistent big games in big games. And what do I mean by big games? I mean great games. They played big. They played a great performance. Lamar put up big numbers, right? That's why Josh Allen, they're still seen as a heavy, contender in the AFC is because even in Josh Allen and the Bills losses, they've been pretty good. Outside of this recent loss to the Bengals. But their loss to Mahomes, it was wow. They impressed even though they lost. That's what the Ravens need to do. If you're going to lose, you need to impress. And the Ravens disappoint. And even this year, even in a game against potentially the Super Bowl champion Cincinnati Bengals, I hate to say it, they went out there and the Ravens gave the game away. They gave it away. That doesn't happen from dynasties. And again, backup quarterback. But we see the backup quarterback for the Chiefs come in, throw a 4th down completion, beat the Cleveland Browns. We see him go in and go on a scoring drive against the who did they play last week? The Jaguars. Patrick Mahomes goes down, Henny comes in, boom, scoring drive, big drive. Can't just blame the backup because the backups on other teams have played and they've not given the game away. I don't know if this video makes much sense. I just kind of wanted to talk about the conference championship and kind of this idea of like dynasties because people are going to bring it up. And I just wanted to kind of get ahead of the curve of people going like, oh man, I'm so annoyed that the Ravens aren't talked about in the future of the AFC. Why aren't they talked about? Because they don't show up in the playoffs. Do I think they could? Do I think they should? Absolutely. But again, this isn't Ravens fan perception. This is looking at it from an outside view. How does the world see the Ravens? And they don't see them. They don't see him up there. They see him with the Titans. They see him with, the Cowboys. They see him with the Seahawks as of late. And now the Seahawks are a little bit different now because they lost Russ. I'm talking about the Russ Seahawks. It's like, yeah, you'll make the playoffs. You're not going to do anything, though. Let me know in the comment section down below your guys' thoughts. Who do you think is going to win? Thank you so much. Subscribe for daily Ravens content. And I'll see all of you again tomorrow.